the two-state solution would sort of be an intermediary response to the issue. And with the two-state solution, either state is always going to feel threatened by the presence of the other state, by the population of the other state, by the size of the military, who has more support, who's got more borders, etc., etc. It'll be a battle for resources. It's going to be really complicated, and I don't see the situation being any more positive than it is right now, with Palestine not really having a state and Israel having a half state, in essence, because it's so worried about attacks from other Arab nations. So I feel like the one-state solution would just resolve a lot of those issues in creating a cohesive nation between the two people, and one that would be incredibly strong if they worked out their differences, and one that would, to say it is cliche, but shine as a ray of hope to other people that, massive differences can be resolved when you just look for the similarities and you try to work it out.
So what's going to happen? What's going to be the resolution? Well, I think if I had to put my money on something, I would say that there would be a kind of a gradual, how should I put this? A gradual elimination of a distinctive Palestinian people. That I think the Palestinian people will probably gradually cease to exist. And I don't mean that they're going to be killed, that's not what I'm implying, that there's going to be any kind of genocide. But that through a continuing diaspora, that the social and cultural structures that undergird a distinctive Palestinian identity will be undermined, and gradually over time will dissolve. And so that the Palestinian identity for most people will become mostly a kind of memory rather than a living reality. In a sense that is a one-state solution, because the state that will be left standing will be the state of Israel. Mm-hmm. If by one-state solution you mean a kind of Martin Buber-like state, secular state, where Arabs and Jews, or more precisely I guess Jews and Muslim and Christian Palestinians would all live together as equal citizens. Well, if I were one of these people, yes, that's precisely what I would want, because I'm a good secularist, and I see no reason why one couldn't live like that. But I don't think that the political dynamics on either side of the divide would support or tolerate that kind of a solution. Well, I'm doubtful that there will be a solution. There will be a resolution of some sort, because problems resolve themselves. Nature abhors a vacuum, and history abhors chaos, and the situation will resolve itself in some way. But if your question is what is likely to be the contours of a negotiated solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that I'm not at all sanguine about. I'm not at all optimistic. It's very hard for me to see what a negotiated, peaceful settlement of the Israeli-Palestinian crisis could be. A settlement that would meet the kind of the minimal political expectations of both sides. I just don't see it. I'm not very optimistic about that. If one were to happen, it would have to be, I think, a kind of two-state solution of some kind. Although probably the two states would have to be intertwined formally and legally in ways that would stretch the usual definitions of what constitutes a nation.
I don't think the U.S. will ever be an unbiased mediator. That would be lovely wishful thinking, but I don't think I can't think of any conflict in the world where the U.S. has been unbiased in anything. I think I really like Obama's appointment so far. I really like George Mitchell as the envoy. I really like Hillary Clinton. If you've looked at some of her transcripts from her meetings when she was there last, just even her words when she was speaking with Abbas or speaking with other people in the Palestinian territories, she really truly, she kept emphasizing that the Palestinian cause wasn't something that she just carried in her portfolio, but something that was actually important to her. Even when she was in First Lady, she had a few comments and she was involved. So I really think that American leadership. Even in Congress recently, there was a policy memo. I think Brett Skycroft was one of the top people involved, are really wholeheartedly in support of a Palestinian state. Does that negate American public opinion that has generally in the past supported Israel? No. Does that negate the power of the Israeli lobby? Definitely not. But I still think that we're making movements to better be honest broker to both sides. But will we ever be unbiased? No. Do we have a student? Because at this point right now,
they should have an even-handed policy. They should say, okay, you cannot apply the UN resolutions only to one side and not on the other. There are resolutions that are on paper since 1967 demanding Israel to withdraw from the West Bank and Gaza and the Golan Heights. Nothing was implemented. The solution calls for two-state solution, and that has not been. President Bush on his first term says, before my first term, we're going to have two terms pass, and nothing happened. And in the last 1 year, he wanted to do some movement around it, and he traveled to the Middle East and all that, but nothing happened.
I think the U.S. should be less involved. I think that there are opportunities for the U.S. to be a mediator between Israel and Palestine, but at the same time, we shouldn't I think in the past the U.S. has let their own interests interfere in the mediation process, and so the U.S. has been very pro-Israel, and I don't know, I don't think the way that they were giving them aid, they were also giving them money for weapons, I think, to fight, and I don't think that's necessarily the best way that they could give aid. The U.S. could play a role in trying to get more resources like that to both areas of Palestine, especially now after the war that just broke out. There's like some serious humanitarian crises going on, and also in terms of the mediation that's happening between Israel and Palestine, allow it to be more based upon them, and perhaps pull in some other Arab countries. As mediators or as people in the discussion, like to really use Egypt, I think, as sort of. I feel like they're a little bit more of a buffer Islamic state in terms of they have more peace with Israel than a bunch of other countries in Islamic world. So I think that there's potential for things.
Of all the powers in the world, the United States is probably the one that would be most likely capable of forcing the partners, forcing the Israelis and the Palestinians into some kind of a negotiated solution. But I doubt very much that the United States is going to summon the political will to do that kind of thing. I think that the support of Israel and of a particular irredentist brand of Israeli politics is just too deep.
The U.S. role has always been an issue of question here, especially with regards to the very well financed, the very well organized Jewish lobby that procures a lot of U.S. interest in the safety of the state of Israel. And I feel that if this is going to succeed in the future, the United States needs to take a more neutral role in the conflict. They need to stand up on both sides and say it is wrong to kill civilians, it is wrong to occupy each other's territory, it is wrong to, what's the word I'm looking for, to prohibit people from, or keep resources from people that they need desperately. That's wrong. And